Yes, we are back. Welcome everybody to round 1 of the 2017 FF1M Championship, coming to you live from the Australian Grand Prix in Melbourne. And wait, hang on a second, this isn't James Brickles. No, it's me. It's Joseph Willows, the Willows Racing team boss and ex-FF2M commentator. Now you might be wondering why you're hearing my voice instead of James Brickles' voice. Well, that is because Mr. Brickles is currently away on paternity leave, as he and his partner recently just gave birth to their first child. So I think I can speak for everyone at FF1M when I say congratulations to Mr. Brickles, and we hope to hear your voice in the future. Hope you and your partner, and of course your firstborn, are doing very well indeed. So you're going to have me for at least this first race. Not sure about future races, but obviously James Brickles will be back in the commentary box in the future. It's just which race at the moment he will come back at. That's a bit of a question mark at the moment. But we are here for the Australian Grand Prix in Melbourne, and of course the previous winner here was of course Nico Rosberg, but he's obviously not here this season of course because he retired at the end of 2016, so really we're going to be Nico Rosberg less when it comes to the 2017 season. That made no sense whatsoever, but you get my point really. But going into this season, of course, there have been a few changes, of course, that have happened, not just across the teams, but of course the way the teams are set up for each weekend, of course, because we have a new setup system for this season, really, and of course a new tyre rule, where basically the compounds that we have, all three compounds, the soft, medium and hard, they can get used only once across the weekend. So for example, taking my team for example, on the Friday we've used the medium tyres, on the Saturday the hard tyres, and have gone all guns blazing on Sunday with the soft tyres. You can't use the hard tyres though for the Friday. But we get to the first grid of the season, and it is Lewis Hamilton who kicks off the defence of his title by taking pole position from his arch rival Fernando Alonso in second place. Thomas Gonzalez in third, and the CBA Racing team obviously taking over from Gajera ahead of Sergio Perez in fourth. Daniel Ricciardo lines up in fifth with Valtteri Bottas in sixth for GRM. Then going into row 4 on the grid, we have Kimi Raikkonen in the CBA racing car, followed by Cooper Lee in the Mitchell, who starts in 8th position. On row 5 of the grid, we have Jean-Eric Vergne in the Andrew racing car, ahead of Nolan Bryant in the Shake and Bake racing car, completing the top 10 here in Australia. Row 6, we have Kevin Magnussen in the FJR, followed by Romain Grosjean in the Tornado. Not exactly a great qualifying for Romain, it must be said, in the Tornado. Of course, Tornado coming into this season as the reigning Constructors Champions. And continuing that theme, Väinö Kimonen making his debut in 13th, not a good qualifying for him, with Sebastian Vettel in 14th. Katharina Carazola, I'm struggling with that pronunciation, in 15th, with Nico Hulkenberg in 16th. I'll try and pronounce it as best I can throughout this broadcast. Alessandro Farina starts 17th, with Max Verstappen in 18th. A new era for Willows, no longer a manufacturer team, they're now a customer team, but still a long way to go if they want to make their way through the pecking order. James Clark and the returning AJ in 19th, with Carlos Sainz in 20th position. And on the back row of the grid for the first race of the season, it is Robert Kubica in 21st and Stoffel Vandoorne in 22nd and last. AJ of course returning to FF1M as a result of Meister pulling out of the series at the end of 2016. But here we go then for the start of the 2017 season. It is Hamilton on the right of your screens. It is Alonso on the left who is going to get the lead into the first corner. So you have 3 lights, 4 lights and 5 lights that are now on. And it is lights out, and away we go for the 2017 season. It looks like a very good start for Hamilton, but also a good start from Gonzalez, who's got alongside Alonso. Can he get him into the first corner? Hamilton goes a little bit wide there, but Alonso looks like he's just going to hold off from Gonzalez, and they all make their way out of the first couple of the corners. Looks like everybody's kept it clean so far. Hamilton's got a bit of a gap up at the front, but Gonzalez trying to attack Alonso into turn number 3. Bit of contact between the pair, but Gonzalez pushes his way through into second place, bumps Alonso down to 4th. Ricciardo makes his way up to 3rd as he now tries to catch up to Gonzalez as well, but Hamilton leads the way at the moment. He's got an 8th gap to Gonzalez at this stage. Ricciardo in 3rd position, Alonso 4th, Perez 5th, Bottas in 6th, with Raikkonen in 7th, and Cooper Lee rounding out the top 8 as they all make their way through these section of corners now. Then we go on the racetrack. Looks like the Willowses have pretty much stayed firm at the moment, staying in 18th and 22nd at this stage at the moment, but Hamilton still leading the way at this stage at the moment. The 2 Tornadoes at the moment. Kimonen's had a good start. He's got his way up into 11th position. In terms of Grosjean, he's at the opposite. He's down to 15th from the start, so not exact bit of a half and half situation there for the Tornadoes. And meanwhile, Valtteri Bottas attacking his teammate Perez into the corner. Bit of contact between the pair, but luckily Perez does not get shoved off by Bottas, trying to make his way through very quickly, but Perez fends off for the time being. 5-6 so far for the two GRM drivers. A pretty good start for them at the moment, as they've got Kimi Raikkonen trying to challenge them as they come around the final corner at the end of the first lap. Hamilton setting the early fastest lap of the race here at Albert Park as they make their way down towards the pit straight now. Then Bottas not close enough for a move, despite the fact that Perez went defensive into that first corner now then. As meanwhile, we've got this is Romain Grosjean trying to make his way back through the field. He gets up into 14th place, making his way through on Sebastian Vettel. Not a great start for the former champion, it must be said, being down in 15th position as we now skip towards lap 2 of the race now then. In fact, we are on lap 2. Bottas again trying to have a go at Perez. Can't make the move stick. No, the Bryant trying to go for a double overtake there, but only able to get one place. Passes Verne there for P number 9. As now we run on board with Alessandro Farina now trying to attack Romain Grosjean for 14th. He's already passed Vettel, unseen by the cameras, and he makes his way through there. Now, riding on board, this is, I believe we are riding on board with, we're riding on board with someone. This is Nolan Bryant we're riding on board with, because it's Cooper Lee that's in front as he goes down the inside into the right-hander, and contact there between the pair, but Bryant gets himself into the point. He also allows, I believe that is Jean-Eric Verne to make his way up to 9th. It is, but now Verne wants to try and capitalise if he can now. There's a make the way in towards the quick left-right chicane. We go on the racetrack now then, trying to see if he can get a run down towards the 4th to last corner. He's getting the slipstream now then of the shake and bake driver, but he can't make the move stick, and Bryant just holds on to the place for the time being now then, as they now make their way through the long swooping right-hander. We go now then as they now head their way in towards the final couple of corners as Hamilton sets another fastest lap now then, a 1:19.9. Bottas again trying to attack his own teammate into the first corner. They both go off the track and Bottas goes for a spin, and it looks like Raikkonen has collected the side of him. Luckily no damage within the pair, but a double points finish looks to be out of the question for GRM as we now ride on board. This is Kimmonen trying to go on the inside of Cooper Lee, and he gets himself up into 9th place. So Kimmonen making his way through the field. We now ride on board with Robert Kubica in the returning AJ Racing car, trying to go around the outside of Van Dorn. Can he pull this move off? Yes, I think he can actually, and he has. What a brilliant move from Robert Kubica in the AJ around the outside of Van Dorn to get himself up into 17th place. Meanwhile, Fernando Alonso trying to make his way up through the field after his poor start from second, trying to re-overtake Ricciardo if he can, but he can't get the move stick on the Australian at this point in time. As we now look at, I think that's Kubica who's just been re-overtaken there, and he's now going to get contact there between that's Kubica and one of the I think that's one of the not sure who it is, but yeah, that's why Van Dorn got back ahead of Kubica. Kubica went a little bit wide into that final corner, and I believe it was Carlos Sainz that was the culprit that took himself out. No, it was Nico Hülkenberg actually that took him out into the first corner. Looked a little bit ambitious there from Hülkenberg, and they both go pirouetting into the gravel as a result. Back with Alonso, who he's still stuck behind Daniel Ricciardo at this stage, as Kimmonen tried to attack Ricciardo's teammate. Meanwhile, Jean-Eric Verne for the final points place. The Finn is on an absolute charge at this stage of the race. Can Kimmonen find a way through? He tried to look to the outside, but he can't make the move stick at this stage, so he's going to have to hang back for the time being. As one of the things I do want to talk about, and I'll actually talk about it when we get to the pit stop stage of the Grand Prix, because you may have noticed something a little bit different with the tyres this season, apart from the change I mentioned with the tyre rules for this season. But we'll get onto that in a little bit. As Kimmonen now goes down the inside of Jean-Eric Verne to make his way into the final points place. So the Finn on a charge from 13th on the grid, and he's now up into 8th place. A brilliant race so far for Väinö Kimmonen as we now look at Romain Grosjean. He goes down the inside of Kevin Magnussen into the corner. A bit of contact and they both go off, and Magnussen is out of the race. Magnussen's wheel has been ripped off in the incident, and Kevin Magnussen becomes the first retirement of the 2017 season, and it was all caused by an accident with Romain Grosjean. So the Tornado taking out the FJR driver, and well, Grosjean's going to be tumbling down the field, and I bet you any money James Brickles is not going to be happy in his paternity leave, it must be said. As we now look at this is well, whoever it is, he's just gone wide off the racetrack there. I believe this might be well, it's Hamilton's teammate, of course, and I believe it is Cooper Lee. Yes, I thought it was. Is now Caracciola, I think I'll get there eventually, trying to go for a move, but nearly making contact there with Farina into turn number 3. So Caracciola keeping herself in 11th place. I think she is the first female to compete in this series as well. So a bit of history for FF1M there. As now we look at Fernando Alonso, who's trying again to have a look at Ricciardo. Ricciardo has been holding up the Spaniard for quite a while in this race, and Alonso still can't find a way through on Daniel Ricciardo in this race, as the top two have got a bit of a gap to these two, it must be said. Hamilton still with a 2.4 second lead in front of Thomas Gonzalez at this stage, as Alonso going a little bit wide there, is trying to overtake Ricciardo, and he's now lost all the momentum in the world, as Ricciardo is now got a bit of a gap to Fernando Alonso. We now ride on board with Alessandro Farina, who's now on the back of Caracciola now then, as the battle for 11th goes on. Danny inside, goes Farina on Caracciola into the corner, and contact's been made there, and I bet James Brickle saw a little bit of a flashback there, because I thought he thought the same scenario was going to happen with Caracciola as it was with Magnussen, but luckily Caracciola still in the race, but Farina tumbles down the order. We're on board with Bottas, who's trying to make his way back through the field, but not like that he won't, as he's made contact with Stoffel Vandoorne, and he's been taken out of the race. Caracciola has hit the back of him there. Bottas rejoining dangerously, and Valtteri Bottas, after a frustrating race, is out for the second. It's now the second retirement of this race. So we take a look at a replay of this, and it was always going to be a risky overtake there for Bottas, and taken out there by Caracciola. A dangerous rejoin, it must be said, from the Finn, and he becomes the second retirement of the 2017 season. As we ride on board now then with Romain Grosjean, who tries to make his way back through the field. He's trying to find a way past. This is Stoffel Vandoorne, currently finding himself in a Willows sandwich, and he's trying to go for a similar move to what Bottas tried to do, and it's the same consequence. Vandoorne essentially being bullied at that corner today, but Grosjean barges his way through and gets himself up into 17th position. So a little bit of dirty driving, it must be said, into turn 1, as Verstappen will be pitting at the end of this lap. Meanwhile, we look at Thomas Gonzalez, who's also pitting at the end of this lap, and he's the first of the leaders to make a pit stop in this 2017 season. Now, while these pit stops are going on, I might as well tell you this little change that you might have seen with the tyres, because after a few years of us using the Pirelli tyres in this series, we've now got a tyre war in this series. So we have Firestone as one of the tyre makers. A few of the teams opting to go for Firestone for this season. And we also have another tyre compound, as it looks like Vino Kimmonen has also come into the pit lane at the same time as Thomas Gonzalez. I'll have to quickly check, in fact, what the other compound is. Hopefully I don't miss too much of what's going on. But Gonzalez rejoins in 7th place after his pit stop. He joins just in front of Cooper Lead there, as he's actually got some clear track in front of him, so that could definitely give him a bit of a helping hand there as he tries to gain the gap onto Lewis Hamilton. We're now looking at Daniel Ricciardo, who's going to be coming into the pits at the end of this lap. Another Firestone runner, it must be said, and he's definitely trying to get a podium here in the first race of the season. Obviously had the threat of Fernando Alonso, who obviously lost a bit of time after his little mistake he made earlier on. Alonso's already been in the pits, as you would have seen. He's down in 11th place, so now it's Ricciardo's turn to make a pit stop as he comes into the pit lane, and we will see how quick the stop will be in just a little bit. But yes, we do have two different compounds. We have the Firestones, as you can see, with Daniel Ricciardo here, as he's using the Firestone tyres. But the other compound we have is Goodyear. There are a few teams using the Goodyear tyres for this season. I'll go through the list, actually, as Ricciardo finishes his pit stop. The Goodyear runners, we have FJR, Gajera, GRM, Mitchell, and, of course, Pedersen. But for the runners using Firestone are AJ, Andrew, CBA. We also have Shake and Bake, Tornado, and Willow. So 6 runners using the Firestone tyres, as Ricciardo's still out in front of Alonso, who himself is being held up by Sebastian Vettel. So any chance he had of trying to jump, Ricciardo went down the toilet as he tried to find his way through on Vettel, barging his way through, it must be said, as Vettel takes a trip to the gravel as a result. But Alonso gets his way up into 8th place. Not that will please Pedersen whatsoever, I am sure. Riding on board with Lewis Hamilton now then, as he will be coming into the pits at the end of this lap then, as we ride on board with, in fact, a Goodyear runner, I believe this is, as he now comes around the left-hander, and Lewis Hamilton now then comes into the pits then. So we'll see what the race leader is able to do. Of course, Gonzalez pitted earlier on, and he's had a bit of clear track in front of him as well after he made his pit stop. So we'll see what Lewis Hamilton's pit stop is going to be like. A fresh set of tyres and a bit of fuel. Only 16 laps worth of fuel, so going quite short on this stint for Lewis Hamilton. And let's see where he's going to emerge. He should, I think, still come out in the lead, maybe. Perez has also come into the pits. Not sure if Verne has or not. Verne, has actually stayed out, in fact. Well, it did say second briefly on there, but that was obviously wrong. But Hamilton still rejoined to the lead. Gonzalez not able to gain too much on Hamilton during that stint. And Hamilton still with a comfortable lead out in front. The reigning champion still leading the way comfortably ahead of Thomas Gonzalez in this Grand Prix. Gonzalez goes off the track. Gonzalez off. He's gone straight on. And Gonzalez pushing a bit too hard, but luckily for him, he doesn't lose a place, but he does lose time to Hamilton as a result. Van Dorn contact with Vettel, and he goes for a spin. Vettel goes straight on into the gravel as well. It's all chaos here in the first race of the season as we look at Lewis Hamilton now then, who's still leading the way comfortably. Here's Daniel Ricciardo in third place, and looks a little bit wobbly there for Daniel Ricciardo. It looks like he's going a little bit wide there, a little bit of a lock-up, and well, that's an invitation there for, is that Fernando Alonso? It is Alonso going for the move on Daniel Ricciardo, but can't seem to make it stick. Also not too far behind him, you just saw it in the background there, is Sergio Perez. So essentially, this has now become a three-way scrap for third position. Hamilton just set another fastest lap there up in the lead, as he's now got a near 8-second lead to Gonzalez, who he's obviously gained a lot from that mistake from Gonzalez and also from the pit stops as well, as again Ricciardo goes defensive. Alonso again still stuck behind the Australian. He just can't seem to find a way through on Ricciardo in this race now. As they now make the way towards turn 3 on the track. He's going to go to the inside. Ricciardo again going quite defensive. Can Alonso pull him reverse? He's locked the rears. Alonso has locked the rears, and both Ricciardo and Alonso go off the track. Perez goes up into third place, and Alonso locking up the rears has taken himself and Ricciardo into the gravel there. And well, once again, more collisions happening down at turn 3, but Perez, the benefactor in all that, as he now gets his GRM up into third place. There's more contact into the first corner. Farina making contact there with one of the Pedersens there into the first corner. I believe it is Sebastian Vettel. So again, Vettel being bullied off the track. No, it isn't. In fact, it is his teammate who has been taken out at that corner there. But either way, Vettel now all over the back of his teammate Carlos Sainz, that is. So it was Sainz that was the one that got took out, and now Vettel wants to overtake his teammate into the fourth last corner, but Farina trying to go around the outside there of the former world champion, not going to make it stick, as the two Willows drivers are now on the back of this little battle that's going on for 16th place. It's currently Verstappen ahead of Van Dorn in this Grand Prix as they now make their way towards the final corner on the racetrack. A little bit of a slipstream fest now then, down towards this straight. Farina in the slipstream now then of Sebastian Vettel. Vettel going defensive. Farina trying to look to the inside if he can. Contact between the pair. Vettel goes off the track yet again, and Farina gets himself up into 17th place as now the two Willows try to attack Vettel if they can. Now then Verstappen on the back of Vettel now as we ride on board with Max Verstappen in the Willows now. Then, of course, the first year of them being a customer team, of course, running Judd Power in the back of their car as opposed to Ilmore. Ilmore obviously leaving the sport and making way for a new manufacturer, and that new manufacturer is out of the race here. Robert Kubica out of the race in the AJ now. Then, of course, AJ running the Hart engines, of course, Hart being the new manufacturer that's come in place of Ilmar, and Kubica showing that there is teething problems with that Ilmar, as he has become the third retirement of this Grand Prix, which is kind of bizarre given the amount of contact we've had in this race. Grosjean, meanwhile, on the inside of Caracciola there, and cleanly through into 13th place. So he passes Caracciola there, and Romain Grosjean now up into 13th place now then in the Tornado. But either way, it has not been the best of weekends for Tornado, it must be said. Except if your name is Vino Kimmonen, of course, who's currently up in 4th place, and that is legit 4th place, it must be said. I've only just realised that on the timing screens, because everybody has done a pit stop at this point, and Kimmonen now finds himself up in 4th place. So brilliant stuff from the Finn there, from 13th on the grid. He's made his way up into 4th place, so brilliant stuff there, ahead of his fellow compatriot Kimi Raikkonen, who currently finds himself in 5th place. Meanwhile, this is Farina attacking Carlos Sainz for what is 15th place, currently finding himself in a Pedersen sandwich. Not been a great first weekend for Pedersen, it must be said, as now Farina tries to have a go at Sainz, heading towards the right-left complex we go. And, well, is he going to try and maybe line up for a move? I think this is turn 8 they're going to be approaching very, very soon, but I don't think Farina is close enough to go for a move on the Spaniard just yet, as they now make their way through the right and left complex. Now then, we will go. They've got a bit of a gap to Vettel, who himself is having to, I think he's actually going to be lapped soon, because I think that's Lewis Hamilton that's just behind Vettel at the moment. So Vettel and Farina and, of course, Sainz will be lapped very soon by the race leader Lewis Hamilton, as now Farina tries to line up a move on Carlos Sainz, heading towards the right-hander. Carlos again goes defensive and holds on to the place for the time being. Now then, heading their way around the long swooping right-hander we go, as now they make their way into the final couple of corners. Now then, on the racetrack, now into the final corner, is Farina going to get the move done on Carlos Sainz Jr. now then, as he's now tucking into the slipstream, and the Spaniard going to go to the inside. Sainz doesn't put up too much of the defence, so you would think this is going to be a clean move from the Italian, and yes it is. Farina up into 15th place as Hamilton puts a lap on Sebastian Vettel in the background. He'll now try and lap Vettel's teammate, although Vettel may want to try and unlap himself if he's close enough to go for a move. He is, in fact, he is thinking about unlapping himself, but Hamilton saying no to that. And in fact, Hamilton, who we're viewing right now, is actually coming into the pits at the end of this lap. So we're already into the second round of stops in this race. And speaking of pit stops, Kimi Räikkönen has just come into the pits for his second stop as Sainz gets out of the way of Lewis Hamilton. And speaking of which, Hamilton comes into the pits for his second stop. He's actually pitting earlier than what Thomas Gonzalez is. So Sebastian Vettel also comes into the pits as well. Change of tyres and some fuel going into the car, so that confirms it is a free stop for Lewis Hamilton. I did think it was, because it was a bit of a short stint that he was on previously, and looking like it will be a free stop on this occasion. Not sure what strategy Gonzalez is on. I'll have to check his fuel load in a bit. Didn't really check what his fuel was earlier on, so next time we see Gonzalez, I'll remember to look at his fuel load on the top of the def panel you can see there, which has got all the information you need, including the lap counter as well. So anyway, riding on board with this is Kimi Räikkönen we're riding on board with, as he's currently stuck behind. I believe that's Nico Hülkenberg he's currently stuck behind at this stage now then. I could be wrong on that, but no, I'm not. It is Nico Hülkenberg. I've just seen the helmet there. So now making his way towards the right-hander. Kimi getting stuck. His teammate, meanwhile, will be coming into the pits. That'll be Thomas Gonzalez who'll be coming into the pits at the end of this lap now then. So I do believe he may be on a free stop as a result then, because that looked to be also a short stint for the Argentine, as they now make their way out of the chicane now then. Verstappen comes into the pits for Willows Racing now then, as they come around the left-hander now then, heading towards the left-right chicane. We will go. Nolan Bryant still yet to make a pit stop at the moment. He's currently up in second place, as Gonzalez is now into the pits, because it says the number 2 next to his name on the pit. So Gonzalez now into the pits, and I think Hamilton has just gone through on him quite easily there. He did obviously have a big gap to Gonzalez, and Gonzalez, I think, should come out comfortably in third place. As into the pits goes Nico Hülkenberg there, so Räikkönen set free from the German there, so he can now start to pump the lap times in the CBA racing car. Ricciardo also into the pits now then, and Gonzalez does indeed come out in third place, and Kymmenen currently in 5th place at the moment. Brian still yet to make his pit stop, but he will be legitimately in 4th place. I mentioned it earlier on, but it's so far been a fantastic drive for the Finn from 13th on the grid to get himself up into 4th place in the Tornado in that very retro liveried Williams livery, which I do like indeed. And well, Bryant having a very good impression here in Australia. Probably a lot of team bosses are probably going to keep notes of this super talent in Vino Kymmenen. Meanwhile, we're looking at Fernando Alonso, who's stuck behind one of the AJs, and Alonso trying to make his way up through the field after that collision he had with Daniel Ricciardo earlier on. As now coming around the final corner, as Alonso tries to find a way through on James Clark, as now heading their way down towards the pit straight. Alonso going to get the move done on Clark, heading towards the first corner. Clark doesn't put up too much of a defence. Alonso on the inside, and Alonso gets himself back into the top 10. So back up to 10th place goes Fernando Alonso, as meanwhile Clark has now got his mirrors full with Nico Hülkenberg. He's going to go to the inside of Clark heading into turn number 3, and Hülkenberg gets himself up into 11th place. So Clark losing 2 places in the space of 3 corners there, as he's now dropped down to 12th position. Hulkenberg, I'm not sure if he's got the pace to Alonso in front, but it will be curious. Meanwhile, this is Väinö Kymmenen we are looking at now, and he's actually on the back of Sergio Perez here, so Kymmenen could be on for a chance of a podium here in this race now. As the Finn tries to put the Mexican driver under a bit of pressure, as Perez just holds onto the place as they make their way through the right and left complex now. Then we go around the long swooping left-hander we go now. Then it's now going side by side now. Then can't quite make the move stick through in towards the left-right chicane now. Then on the racetrack, Kymmenen now then in the slipstream of Sergio Perez, as now he goes down the inside into the fourth last corner. Perez puts on a bit of a defensive masterclass there to fend off from the Finn at this stage of the race. But Kymmenen currently flying right now in the Tornado, as now coming around the final couple of the corners, we will go on the racetrack through the final turn and onto the pit straight. Hamilton with a 13.7 second lead in front of Thomas Gonzalez. It looks like, in fact, Kymmenen lost a little bit of traction there compared to Perez. So Perez able to stay in front of the Finn at this stage of the Grand Prix. Around turn 2, we go now then on the racetrack, as the gap around about 3/10 between the Mexican and the Finnish driver now. Raikkonen under 5 seconds back from these two on that lap, and he might have his mirrors full in a minute of Nolan Bryant, who finally made his pit stop earlier on. Bryant, it must be said, a bit of a shout out to him, currently up in 6th place, so he's doing a very good job at the moment at this stage of the race. Is now making their way around the long swooping right-hander we go. It doesn't look like that Kymmenen is close enough to go for a move on Sergio Perez at the moment. It seems like it's a similar scenario to what we saw earlier on between Daniel Ricciardo and Fernando Alonso, where the guy behind just couldn't seem to find a way through. And I think it's the same story here at the moment between Perez and Kymmenen. Now through towards the swooping left-right chicane. Is Kymmenen close enough to go for a move on Perez into the fourth to last corner this time? He's in the slipstream of the GRM driver. He's going to go fake to the left, go to the right, but can't make the move stick. Perez holding on for the moment, desperate to get GRM a podium in this race. So far, GRM have shown some very good pace, judging from what we've seen so far in this race, and also during pre-season testing as well. And so far, they are showing it very well indeed, as Perez still fending off from Väinö Kymmenen. As now Kymmenen in the slipstream of Perez. Can he get him this time? He's going to go to the inside. Perez doesn't put too much of a defense. Kymmenen on the inside, and he finally gets the move done. Kymmenen up into 3rd place, and Kymmenen now finds himself on the podium places, and he finds himself currently 7 seconds back from Gonzalez, who continues to lose time for Hamilton. So does Kymmenen perhaps have the pace to possibly catch up to the ex-Tornado driver Thomas Gonzalez? So 2 young prospects potentially fighting it out for 2nd place if Kymmenen has the pace to close up to Gonzalez, who himself has lost further time to Hamilton. 15.5 is contact again involving Grosjean, and that will be, of course, Cooper Lee. I think he's had contact with there, or it might be someone else, I'm not sure. But again, Grosjean in the wars in this race, it must be said, although it still says Cooper Lee is in 9th place, so I don't think it's him. As we ride on board with, this is who we ride on board with. I believe this is Fernando Alonso we are riding board with. No, it isn't. This is Nolan Bryant we are riding on board with, because that's Kimi Räikkönen in front, and Bryant will actually be coming into the pits at the end of this lap now then, but he wants to try and get the move done on Räikkönen before he does that. Ricciardo, who's got himself back into the points meanwhile, a good recovery for him. He's coming to the pits from 8th position for what will be his final stop of the race, as we are on lap 43 of 57 here at Albert Park. Through the flat-out right-hander we go. Cooper Lee now then into the pit, so confirming that wasn't Cooper Lee that Grosjean made contact with. It might have been... actually, I don't want to speculate who it might have been. I think it's either Farina he made contact with, or it might have been Nico Hulkenberg. It was one of the two, I believe, he made contact with. But either way, the pair of them are still in front of Grosjean. So I think Grosjean was I think got the worst out of that collision that we saw earlier on, as now making their way towards the left-right chicane on this racetrack. We'll be seeing Bryant coming to the pits. He's not close enough to go for a move on Räikkönen in front, so it looks like Bryant, if he wants to get 5th place, he's going to have to do it in the pit stops. Now coming towards the swooping right-hander we go now then, and we'll see Bryant pull to the right-hand side. Also coming into the pits is Thomas Gonzalez. One of the Willows cars is also coming into the pits in front of Nolan Bryant, who now makes his way into the pit lane. Carlos Sainz also into the pits as well. So, as mentioned, Gonzalez in the pits from 2nd place. And I think Kymmenen is also in the pits as well, because it says 3 next to him. So, both 2nd and 3rd in the pit lane there. Gonzalez, a 7-second stop, taking him to the end of the race, and Gonzalez rejoining in 5th place. Kimmonen rejoining in 6th. Bryant rejoining in 7th place. Well, sorry, 8th place. Alonso has just gone through into 7th there. In fact, he's just in front of his teammate there. As meanwhile, the race leader, Lewis Hamilton, now comes into the pit lane now then for his final stop of the Grand Prix. And he should still come out comfortably ahead of Thomas Gonzalez. Not sure if Sergio Perez will be pitting or not, but because he's currently in 2nd place according to the timing screen on the left-hand side. Katharina Carrickzola is now into the pits as well for FJR, as she will make her final stop of the race as Lewis Hamilton trundles down the pit lane now then. And let's see where he's going to emerge. Will he still be in the lead? And the answer to that is yes, he will. Hamilton still emerges in the lead of the race. I'm not sure if Perez has come into the pits or not. Well, now he has. There goes my answer. Perez now in for his final stop. Obviously, was overtaken earlier on by Väinö Kimmonen. And, well, he now finishes his pit stop. It looks like he's going to emerge in 4th place now then, as he now makes his way out of the pit lane. Kimi Räikkönen also came into the pits. In fact, the gap between him and Perez is not that far off. And the same can be said for Bryant, who has got the jump on Räikkönen. So he's made the pit stop work, and Bryant is up into 5th place. But importantly, as I mentioned earlier, the pair of them are not too far behind Sergio Perez. So possibly more positions gained, or it would have been. But Bryant has made a mistake heading into turn number 3. And Räikkönen says, thank you very much. I'll take P5 with ease. So Räikkönen back up into 5th place, as now Bryant will have Jean-Eric Vergne to worry about as we now look at Lewis Hamilton, who is about to start the final lap here of the Australian Grand Prix, and it's just been the perfect race for Lewis Hamilton. Pole, I believe he does have the fastest lap from memory. Of course, we will check on that when we get to the results screen in a little bit, but it's just been the perfect start to the defence of his title. Totally dominant fashion for Lewis Hamilton, and well, he has not looked back since. Not even Thomas Gonzalez had the pace, and I think even that mistake that Thomas Gonzalez made earlier on down at turn 3 basically sealed any chance he had of possibly trying to get the first win of 2017. A 19.7 second lead Hamilton has to Gonzalez. Kimmonen, interestingly enough, just under 3 seconds behind Gonzalez. So maybe if he had a couple of more laps, maybe a few more laps, Kimmonen could have potentially have had 2nd place in this race, but not to be, unfortunately. And it looks like it's going to be 3rd place either way for Kimmonen, which will be a great start to his time in FF1M. I can't remember if he actually made his debut last season, because I know that Tornado did bring in a substitute driver at the end of the season. It might have been Kimmonen. So either way, this is his first full season of FF1M. But right now, we are looking at the reigning world champion. He's just making his way towards the final 2 corners for the 57th and final time. And it's just been a dominant display from the Brit as he rounds the final corner, and he's going to kick off the defence of his title in strong style. Lewis Hamilton wins the Australian Grand Prix here in Melbourne. The Mitchell driver takes the first win of 2017 and a great start to the defence of his World Championship. Hamilton with a dominant drive here in Australia. He takes his 40th career win, with Thomas Gonzalez in 2nd and Väinö Kimmonen, I believe, getting his first ever podium in FF1M. So a brilliant race from Kimmonen from 13th to 3rd. A brilliant drive. Definitely my driver of the day, it must be said there. Brilliant drive from Väinö Kimmonen. Here is the results order then. Lewis Hamilton takes the victory by over 20 seconds ahead of Thomas Gonzalez in 2nd. Väinö Kimmonen is in 3rd, with Sergio Perez in 4th. Kimi Räikkönen is in 5th position, so double points for CBA. Nolan Bryant is in 6th position, a good result for him, followed by the 2 Andrew Racing cars, who also get both cars into the points. Ricciardo recovering well to finish 8th behind teammate Jean-Eric Vergne. Fernando Alonso misses out on points in 9th after his collision with Ricciardo earlier. Nico Hülkenberg completes the top 10 for Gajera. Well, it says Gajera, but yeah, Gajera in 10th, and 11th place going the way to Q-Pelé. As we look at the rest of the order, James Clark in 12th, with Katharina Carrickzola in 13th, Alessandro Farina 14th, with Romain Grosjean in 15th, Carlos Sainz in 16th, Sebastian Vettel in 17th, Max Verstappen in 18th, and Stoffel Van Dorn in 19th, the last of the finishers. So Willows still with a lot of work to do, it must be said. 3 retirements in the race coming from Kubica, Bottas and Magnussen. In the Drivers' Championship, Lewis Hamilton, of course, taking the early lead in the standings as expected by 4 points out of Gonzalez and Kimmonen, Perez, Räikkönen, Bryant, Vergne, Ricciardo, Alonso, Hülkenberg and Lee. Obviously the top 11 there. The top 8 still getting points, of course. First place getting 12 points for anyone who is still not familiar with the FF1M point system. And, well, still plenty of time for everyone to get some points. But this is the one that everyone is interested about, the Constructors' Championship. It's a tie at the top between Mitchell and CBA, with Mitchell at the top due to Lewis Hamilton taking the victory. Tornado a further 6 points behind the pair in third, with GRM in fourth, Shake and Bake and Andrew tied in fifth, with Shake and Bake in front due to them having a higher result than Andrew, with Gajera, AJ, FJR, Pedersen and Willows, the 5 teams still yet to score a point this season. So it wasn't Gajera that CBA replaced. I do apologise for that, and I do apologise to the team boss if he is watching this. It was in fact Exolite that they took over, in fact, for reasons that are a bit complicated, it must be said. But there we have it then. That is the first race of the 2017 season. Hope you guys enjoyed it. A very enjoyable race indeed, chaotic, and Lewis Hamilton again, the man to beat here in Australia. Thank you for watching, and once again, congratulations on becoming a father, James, and well, hope you and your partner and your newborn are doing very well indeed. But that has been it from the Australian Grand Prix. The next race for FF1M, round 2 of the championship, will take place at the South African Grand Prix in Kyalami. Not sure if I'll be there to do commentary or whether somebody else will do. I have heard rumours that AJ could be doing it live though, so we'll just have to wait and see what the plans are for that. But until then, that has been it. I hope you have enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. I'm Joseph Willows, and we will see you next time at Kyalami. Till then, take care and good night.